Welcome to Insight Builder channel, large language model automators, Python experts, and my dear friends. Advanced AI integration. Powerful combination of LLM-Document QA with Langchain and PysimpleGUI. What are we going to do? What is the goal of this discussion? We are going to develop a GUI that can directly interact with the LLM. It can embed the documents and then support document QA extraction all in a single application. The step-by-step process we have to go through in order to achieve this is what I am going to show you. But before I go into the step-by-step process, I am going to show you the layout. So let us go to the bot master and let me show you the layout. So here you see the entire layout of the application that we will be building, and I'll be showing you how to integrate it. I will not be going through the code exactly. I'll be sharing you the code. But before that, let me show you what I've done here. So this is the path. First and foremost, I have integrated VertexAI. In this particular discussion, we are using VertexAI large language model. Just a minute. We are using VertexAI large language model, and I've integrated the service account that can work with the VertexAI, and I have got that particular JSON file here. If you guys are new to this kind of concepts, I would suggest that take a look at this particular video where I discuss about these concepts, as well as this particular video. So I discuss about how to integrate Palm API with Langchain and with Python, with PysimpleGUI, etc. This will give you a good idea on getting this particular file. Once you have kept it in your local disk, then you can just give the path to this particular disk location, and the API will start working. Next, the first section here is it's a bare large language model that is going to answer your question. So this is similar to what you do with Bard. So if I ask, okay, tell me two different ways of using Python. Okay, I'm just giving a open-ended question, and it will take a little bit of a time, because this particular the way of connecting with the API takes two steps. So it has to first of all send the data to the large language model and then get it back. So here you see the reply that has been provided by the large language model for Python usage. It understood that I'm talking about the programming language and not the snake. And you see it's talking about web development as well as the data science here, and the output looks as if it has been formatted for markdown. So these star marks, they are used in markdown methods. This is the first thing, and this is something that that's by default required, right, if you are going to create an application. And I had discussed about this in the last video. Apart from that, next is the embedding process. So this is where it's a little bit more interesting. This particular section can take a folder. So for an example, it can take let me go to the folder which you guys are pretty much aware. Go to Python D learners data, and if you go to code notebooks, and if you go to projects, LLM practical applications has lots of data in that. Okay, so let me show you the application. Let me show you the files that particular folder has. So all these are the files that is available in that folder, and you see there are lots of PDF files, text files, etc. What will happen is, when the bot master is the particular GUI, this has been programmed in such a way that it can look for the text file, the PDF file, CSV files, and load the load the file using the appropriate loaders. I got this idea from the prompt engineer, the LocalGPT that he had recently released. So big shout out to prompt engineer. With that said, now once you show the browse area, you can actually click on split data. So once you click on split data and go to the terminal, let me go to the terminal and I'll show you what is happening at the back end. So once you click on the split data, what is happening is the actual text is getting split. So you see this particular activity that is running, and that's only the splitting has been completed. if you have to do the next step, what you have to do is we have to embed. So if you have to embed it, you are also going to save it. You don't want to waste that particular embedding, right? So the best way is to give a test index. Give a folder name. So once you give the folder name here and then click on embed save, what will happen is, let me show you to you again. Go to the terminal, and what will happen is the embedding, once the embedding is completed, you will see that the saving the face index has been completed. If you go to the location, the place where this particular code is getting run, you will see that test index has been created. This is a new file that has been created, new folder that has been created that contains the index details, the pickle file and the face index that is required. So now this is the second step that you are seeing, right? Now let us go back to the GUI. This is how you split and say embed the data and do all the stuff. And next is you want to do the QA extraction. So for that, again, you have to provide the vector store location, right? So you browse it and you go to the vector store location and you provide the vector store so that it can start working. It can extract the data for you guys. For that, you have to go to the Streamlit, this particular, I'll be sharing this particular folder also with you guys, this repo also. And now if I go and ask, okay, how to, so you see, this is the path that has been updated here. The test index has been updated, and I am asking, so let me go back to the terminal for a moment, and you see there is something called as vim_play.txt. This is actually a playbook. Yeah, we can do something else also. I have a PDF file that has a paper on self-ask. So let us try some questions there. Let us go back to BotMask, the GUI, and explain to me self-ask. Okay, so this is a very open-ended question, and let us see how the extraction works. Okay, and let me take this a bit higher, and it is actually currently working on the step. And let me go to the terminal for a moment. As it is working on it. And here you see that such a kind of an error can occur. Okay, so this is the reason why I actually brought you the terminal. If you thought that, okay, I'm going to show you some kind of an output, no. What happens is when you are trying to work with the VertexAI, what I found, if you give more information to the LLM, that is, if the context size is more, then it actually errors out. And the error is not very useful. So the error does not help you to really understand what is going on. And you have to do some couple of times you have to experiment what is going on, then only you will be able to find out. So whenever you are facing such an error, try to work on the context that you are sending to the LLM or retry. So this is something that I have been facing with VertexAI pretty recently. So maybe this is also when we are, I am using Langchain primitives. So I'll be showing you the code in a couple of minutes. I'll be using Langchain primitives, and the way these are interacting is also a little different. So let us go back to the, just a minute. Sorry about the break in the middle. The challenge, as I was explaining, the error that was getting created was mainly because of the context that is getting provided, context that is getting provided to the large language model. So let me show you what is the context that I'm talking about. Now you see that I have created a question here, and how to practice sed command. So this particular question is getting asked, and the answer is following needs to be practiced based on the sed 15 command guide.pdf. This particular answer has been retrieved from the Vertex store that has been already embedded using this process. All these things I'll be explaining how it is being done. The point I want to show you right now here is, let us go back to the browser, and you see this particular area. Let me again execute this. Okay, so starting from this location, this is the output that we get from the vector store when we are asking for the similarity documents, and then various outputs are various data is retrieved, and you see this particular line here. This particular line is used by the LLM to provide the answer. But The reason why we were getting error earlier was that each of this line that you see here now it is 100 characters long, but in the previous, when the error was occurring, it was more than 1000 characters long. When I was giving such a long characters to the large language model was throwing error and it was completely crashing the application. This, when you look at the error, it's not very useful. So if you look at this error, it does not tell you why so this is a keyboard interrupt. So if you look at this error, it is saying 400 request contains an invalid argument. This has no relation to what is the exact error. Unfortunately, you have to understand how LLMs work to resolve this particular error. And anyway, it's a simple thing that you need to change in the code. Now that you have got an overview that what has happened, so you have seen how the output should be. So how to decide on the layout? So I have shown you the final layout that is available that was created by me. So this is the final layout that was created by me based on the data and considerable amount of trial and error. You might be wondering what kind of trial and error I had to go through. When I initiated this particular project, my idea was to just have the simple credentials path location, provide the embedding process, the QA extraction, and then the reply area. So this was, and in the middle, then I realized that, okay, why not also include the bare LLM, where you just directly ask the large language model, Google's large language model, any of the questions that you have by using this particular test box. That was my initial thought process. Next, as I wanted to implement that particular part of it, so I included that in the layout. And once I included that in the layout, I rearranged the layout completely. Initially, when I included this particular section at the bottom. Then I had to change it because it doesn't make sense. When you are going to try something new, you have to try something which is simple at the beginning and then slowly increase the complexity. So all these kinds of process, at least when I am doing the project by myself, I had to do it by trial and error because there is no one to guide me. But when you are doing, do it as a team so that you will have more clarity. So these are the some amount of challenges that I faced. Apart from that, the next challenge you might face is when you are going to do the embedding process. So there is a rate limiting that is implemented at Google for the text embedding process. So if your number of splits or the number of documents that you are going to embed is large in number, then the error will be thrown telling that your rate limit has been exceeded. So you need to plan the steps accordingly so that you will get a very good output. And these things actually occur in all the projects. And learning how to overcome that is the major takeaway of these projects. So let me go back to the PDF for a moment. And here, creating the UI parts, coding the support functions, integrating the support functions with the UI. All these things we'll be looking at in the next couple of minutes. So creating the UI parts with the PysimpleGUI is very straightforward. Actually, it's matter of typing some commands or some code or primitives, and the UI parts gets created. The coding support functions in this case, just a minute. Let me go to the browser right now. This is the prompt engineer LocalGPT that was released recently, and he talks about using the private GPT along with a new kind of embedding process, new kind of embedding model. It's not new kind as such, it's already available. It is Hugging Face Instruct GPT embedding model, which is actually a high class, highly accurate model that you can use. What I had done was I had reviewed this ingest.py ingest.py script, and I had taken these two document loader functions because see, it is already there. I have also discussed about this in a couple of earlier videos, but it was already there, and I reviewed this particular code and I took it out. Now you might be wondering, Kamal, how will you know that this code is going to work? The point here is that I have been doing this for a couple of months already. So when I look at the code, how it has been, what kind of primitives has been used from Langchain, it will be much easier for me to decide whether to use it or not. Once you start using these CSV loader, text loader, or PDF miner, you will immediately understand that these are all already separate libraries that you need to install, and the Langchain is using those libraries. So this is how I used the ideas from LocalGPT repo, and the actual code that I'll be using is available under embed and retriever.py. So this particular code is already committed to the GitHub repo. Streamlit deploys GitHub repo, so you can get the detail from there. What I'm going to do right now is that, let us go back to the PDF. I was trying to explain that how to work with get these support functions, and now the point here is how to integrate the support functions with the UI. We already saw the layout creation process itself has multiple challenges, but integrating these support functions with the UI and playing with the UI can be also more interesting. So I will tell you something else that happened when I started working with the UI. So let me go back to the terminal. In case of the PysimpleGUI, what happens is whenever you are asking for any kind of any kind of input to the GUI, it is all collected using the values. Variable. So you see this particular variable here. So this particular variable, let me zoom in a bit so that you guys can see it better. This particular values variable contains all the necessary data that is collected inside, that is provided inside this area. So for an example, let me ask a question now. Where is moon? Okay, and I'm going to click on ask palm. So this is a direct question that I'm sending, and you see that it will take a moment to get populated here, and you see that so here the answer that has come is a night suit made of moon. Night suit is made of material called as moonstone, and it is talking about some fictional output. Okay, now let me ask, where is the moon now in space? Let me give it a little more context, and let me also in the meantime check one more thing. So now I have given it a little bit more context, and you see the right answer that has been provided by the large language model. But the point I wanted to make here is something different. I was talking about the values variable, right? This the path inside the code. When I actually click on this particular ask palm button, what will happen is the path that is taken inside the code has a way to print all these values. So let me show you how the values look. So this is how I actually code. This actually helps me to code a little faster, and sometimes if I don't understand the document also, I can resolve the challenges. You see from this 0 that you are seeing here, let me I think I have already zoomed in sufficiently. So this 0 till this 6. So all these are the values that has been taken from this particular GUI. Okay, and you see that each this is actually a dictionary which contains the key and the associated value. So this is the first text box, and this is the second text box. So let us go back. This is the value in the second text box, that is, where is moon now in space. So this is the second text box, and then this is the third data that is taken from the folder. This is from browse, and this is from the fourth text box. So you see this is how the values is collected. This particular values variable is collected by the PysimpleGUI, and then it is used inside the logic to connect with the large language model, work with the various primitives. So that is one of the key points that I wanted to share share first. let us go back to the PDF again. Now you see that integrating the support functions with the UI becomes way more simpler once you understand how the values are input and how the values needs to be given to the GUI as an output. So these are the two things you need to understand. The rest of all things are basic Python. If you understand Langchain, if you have implemented text loading or document loading, if you have implemented QA Langchain QA chains, if you have implemented all those things, then the GUI implementation and the logic implementation can be done effortlessly. This is something that I wanted to show in this particular video. Next, what comes is testing out the functions and look for improvement and features. See, only these 4 steps are the key point to bring this particular GUI. So this particular GUI can be created just by using this four steps itself. But what happens is, as I was explaining, that you need to test out the functions and see where it is failing and why it is failing, and you need to look for improvement and features. Once you understand that you can implement the code as a GUI, and you can bring others to test it out, you can actually share this GUI code to others, and they can also test it out in no time. And think about it, this GUI, once you give it to any person who is not even aware of how to use command line, they can still start working with it. This is one of the key benefits of working with GUI. As I was telling, layout can be one of the tough decisions, and it can involve a lot of trial and error. Believe me, when you are working by yourself, just go with the flow. Okay, sometimes we get bogged down by a lot of thinking process. In case of PysimpleGUI, it's a matter of deleting a couple of lines or adding a couple of lines. It's not going to take you a lot of effort. So go with the flow, and it's actually simple. It makes it super easy for you to shift the UI parts. Like for an example, as I already told you, that initially I had kept this entire section at the bottom, and then I decided, okay, I need to take it at the top. But once I moved from the bottom to the top, automatically the values that is created in this location, will also get changed. So for an example, this particular is the text. This is the text box, input text box at the bottom. This is the input text box. Now if I move this to the top, what will happen is this number 6 will actually become 0. That is what I was talking about. So once you understand these things, I understood this when I was doing this project. So once you start practicing these, working with the code, working with the code and the user interface directly, moving the UI parts, you will understand not just the language, I mean the framework, PysimpleGUI framework, but also you can come up with innovative ideas to design your GUI, and at the end of the day you will also learn really fast. Wiring up the logic becomes really simple. As I was already explaining, it's more about Python. Once you know where the values are coming and how the values are getting linked, it becomes way more simpler. Because if you go back to let me go to the browser here, I can show you that when it comes to the logic, the primary driver, if you ask what is a primary driver in PysimpleGUI, the primary driver is events. Any kind of event that gets triggered is linked with the browsers, with the buttons, with the various kinds of text inputs that you are providing. All this can be considered as events. And once you create once these events are triggered, you can use those events. So these events actually return the actual value that is associated with the event. So for an example, event equal to close. This event is triggered when I click on the close button. So when I click on the close button here, so the button name itself becomes the event. And this becomes really intuitive. So once you start coding with PysimpleGUI, it's actually addicting. And moreover, when you have Langchain like a kind of a framework, wiring up things becomes really, really interesting. That's one of the major reason why I could do the entire wiring up in less than 4 hours is because I had already understood how the Langchain framework works. So this is a pure simple Langchain LLM, and this particular embedding process is done using FICE primitive, and this QA extraction is done by loading QA chain primitive, and the output is created. So all this are taken using all this is possible because I used Langchain. So I'll be showing you those things also. Now, so first and foremost, this particular path, event equal to folder. So this is the place where I am loading the Langchain. So before that, I need to show you how to embed the process. So I need to split the data. So the splitting data happens by providing the entire document to a load single document or load documents function, and then I split the documents using recursive character text splitters, and then keep it ready. So I don't immediately embed it. For embedding, what I do, I have a separate button called as embed_save. This embed_save goes to FICE and loads it as documents using the VertexAI embedding. This is the code that is doing this particular process. If I click on this embed save, that particular process is done by this particular code. So how the code gets selected is because I am using elif event equal to embed_save. And for splitting, the same way, I use split_data. As I was telling, event is the main driver. And finally, when I am going to ask for the output, I am using the load QA chain primitive from Langchain again, and I am using the document retriever using the database that is already created using either I created newly, or I can actually load the document also, load the embedding FICE index also. So both of these things will be linked to new_db, and then it will be used for retrieving, and then it will be used in this particular load QA chain where I am giving the VertexAI LLM and the chain type, and then I am using text wrap to get the output to the data, to the GUI. When you look at the code like this actually looks simple because someone has already written the code and you are trying to use it. Now the main point here that I always insist is that you have to practice. So my belief is that you like this kind of content and you want to challenge yourself with different kinds of applications, different kinds of frameworks. If that is the case, I sure will think that you want to practice. So take the code, try to implement some other concept that you want to implement using PysimpleGUI, Langchain, and VertexAI, and see how it works out. That is the first thing that you can try after watching this video. Moreover, there is another one video that I have made about PysimpleGUI, and PysimpleGUI itself has a lots of exercises. So do take a look at them and try to experiment with those exercises also. Do share this content with others because this technology, this GUI creation is very important. Most of us, we are used to, nowadays we are getting used to web UIs, web user interfaces. Still, there are people out there who are uncomfortable sending their personal documents to the web. So at that time, having such kind of user interfaces, which is located in your own system, can be much more comfortable for them. Do subscribe to my channel for further updates on similar kind of videos on large language models, Python, and related libraries. The next point that I wanted to highlight is when you are looking for improvement in features, how to look for it. So you might be thinking, Kamal, you have already given one of the applications and we are unable to look for any new features. So when such is the case, what I would suggest is do visit the Langchain documentation, and you will see there are lots of other options that is available here. So you will see that there are various agents and chains, there are various other retrievers, various kinds of different vector stores, different document loaders. You can work with all these kinds of document loaders and try to implement that in the UI. When you are trying these things, you will also learn about the process or learn about the methods that is used in these in these primitives. You can actually implement memory also. Here in this particular UI that I have discussed, I have not discussed about memory in any sense. So you can create kind of an option where you can enable memory or disable memory, something like that. And you can also think about different kinds of indexes when you are going to do the embedding process. You can think about different types of embedding process, embedding vector stores, and you can give an option here. And here I am using the LLM from Google. So you want to implement any of the open source LLM like private GPT, or if you want to use the recent LLM that has come out called Samantha LLM, if you want to use that, how to use that? You need to think about integrating with Hugging Face transformers. You need to integrate with sentence transformers. All these things you have to work it out and then bring research on those topics and bring it together. As I was insisting again, you can use this as a creative key for you to improve yourself. And the code is anyway available here. All you need to do is, if you're uncomfortable doing that, you can keep the code as it is as a skeleton, and you can just change the names, change the parts of the code. In that way, I actually did learn like that in the beginning. So it is much more easier to change parts of the code rather than type it completely new. This is also one of the tactics that you can use. So like this, there are various other ways you can actually improve on the existing, improve on this particular project. So think about what you can actually implement, whether you want to implement audio, whether you want to implement image. You can leave a comment in the comment section so that I will also get to learn about what is your requirements. And also I will also learn something new in the coming future. So I believe that you like this video. Do leave a like and share it with others. Subscribe to my channel for further updates on similar kind of videos on large language models, automating stuff with UIs, and overall Python ecosystem. With that said, I would like to leave with 4 words as usual, that is practice, 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 practice. See you guys. Have a great time.